it is time. We are going to brew some Esmeralda. This is the 92 point, very big number Esmeralda coffee. And I'm here at Bean Bean Roastery in Queens, so we're kind of far away from home, but we have these really premium coffees. We did a stream on sample roasting these coffees earlier, so check that out. But now we're gonna brew some. It is on the fresher side. There are a few versions of this coffee that was roasted. They are profiled roasts, so they're gonna be a little different than production, but this will give us a good idea of the coffee. What I wanna do today is, as you guys know, I have two very patented pour-over recipes, and we're going to brew these two different versions of the pour-over recipe, and I'm gonna have Jiyoon taste it. I was gonna say V60 recipe, but today we're gonna do this on UFO. So we're gonna do two versions where you guys see I dump a ton of water, high kettle agitation, which I would say is more acidity forward, versus lower agitation, something like Melodrip, which I think is super maximum clarity, like balanced type of flavor. So we're gonna try these two versions and we're gonna see which one is better. Or if maybe none of them are better, and there are some preferences here and there. But we're using very premium coffees, and these coffees that are very loud and expressive, these types of pour-over recipes will be very fun for that. But yeah, that is the plan for today, and also for those of you who are on the stream. Let's kind of get these coffees ground up. They're on the fresher side, so if you have fresher coffees, get them ground up, let them sit for a little, and then we can take into account of that when we brew the coffees. Let's get some of these ground up. We're also using lower dosages for these brews because each gram of this coffee is like $1. Maybe more than $1. It's more than $1, right?
More.
Just gonna throw this in. It's very expensive. How about you do it?
No, you can do it.
I'm scared of messing this up. Okay. Every bean counts. Like literally. This is I haven't had this experience before where I'm like literally every bean counts. Here, let's do a little
It's
purge.
okay, Brian.
Now these are dollars. Okay, gonna grind these coffees. Big dollars here. So I'm grinding a little finer, and I'm gonna let this sit here. Whoa, that smells nice. It is on the fresher side. As you guys have seen with the pour-over recipes, we definitely can grind way finer with something like Melodrip and get away with these really large ratios. But also with high kettle agitation, these are things that can work as well. So, and then the dose on these is around 13 grams. I'll weigh them out, but we're doing a little lower dose for
This is 12.
the 12. Okay, this is the same coffee. You can smell it's very explosive. There's a lot of stuff happening. It is on the fresher side, so we're gonna let them kind of open up. The way to do that is just grind it. You could shake it up as well, get some air into it. But I'm gonna brew these all on UFO, so we're gonna have two very different styles of coffee, and I'm gonna use these very fancy Sybarist UFO filters. These have been sitting for a little bit, but in brewing, I'm still going to kind of compensate for the freshness. I'm just gonna push this in there, use the little disputer. Just look at that. Ooh, very, very clean. Negative air channels. It says there's a Mexico COE coffee there. We just hang out and just premium coffees show up. Do you see how cool this is? This specific is a Ikawa roast, so we're gonna try to handle it a little differently than a Loring roast, and it's also on the fresher end. But the general properties of this will show up in cup, where we're gonna be able to see the differences between direct high kettle agitation and more Melodrip, slower agitation. So I'm doing 12 gram doses on both of these coffees. I'm gonna do the same exact type of initial saturation and bloom on these coffees. So I'm gonna do, I think, 12 to 60 or 12 to 50, and then I'm gonna get in and agitate. But for the remaining pours, and I'm gonna keep them 3 pours each, I'm going to do one pour over where I'm gonna do heavy kettle agitation, and then the other I'm gonna do very slow Melodrip agitation. So we're gonna get two very different presentations that I've done on many of the streams before, but it's always fun to let people experience the differences in recipes, and hopefully they taste great. but it's probably going to be something like 60, 72, and 72 in that realm. We'll see how it is, but I just want to end up in the same area. My pours, each pour is going to be the same. The difference is going to be Melodrip agitation, I'd say lower agitation. And I'm going to actually go quite slow versus high kettle agitation. But these have now been sitting for a fair bit. I like to shake up the grounds just to try to get some air into it. It seems to help degas as well. But yeah, oh, sweet, fruity, very, very clean for a natural. And we're going to see how the dynamics are different between these two. But given what I'm smelling right now on sample roast, I am very excited for production roast of this coffee. So I'm going to pour some coffee in, 12 grams. And I think for the first one, let's do 60, 72, 72, or something in that realm. We'll keep it all direct kettle agitation for this one. And for this, I'm going to bloom 1 minute at the beginning. So, you guys have seen, you guys have seen that type of recipe. And I'm going to start the timer here. I'm going to do a heavy kettle agitation. And I'm going to get in here, and I'm going to agitate the bed using my little wet WDT tool that you guys have seen. On UFO, I found you can really get in on the edges and agitate because it's a wider brewer. See there? Oh, balancing the UFO, very, very hard. Maybe we'll let these bloom even longer because they are fresher. And also because this is like a more developed sample roast profile, I am just gonna let the kettle kind of naturally decline because I want these coffees to actually taste good. You want to smell the bed there?
There's a lot happening right now.
Yes.
So sorry.
A lot of stuff is happening as usual here. This is a production space. People are working.
We're intruding.
We're here goofing around on making streams, making the videos. But the thought and the thing that I've experienced is that the higher kettle agitation really shifts things forward. And we are getting slightly longer brew times because we're doing a much longer initial bloom. Oops. So I'm gonna actually extend these out to 215, and then I'm swirling and then giving a tap. So now we just let this decline. So this is actually a little longer ratio. 214 divided by 12, 1 to 17.8. So this is really an extended ratio, but I think it'll really let us taste a lot of those nuances of the coffee. And now, when this is finished, let's go ahead and brew Melodrip low agitation. So I have actually found with some of these coffees that are incredibly nuanced, pushing the coffees harder in terms of ratio is quite helpful for experiencing some of those like very, very slight nuances. But this is an incredibly consistent dripper, by the way. The UFO, super fast, very, very steady flow rate. And swirling and tapping, at least I found with the negative air channels, the fines get trapped in the negative air channels. And our brew time, probably around 3:30, even upwards of 4 minutes, depending on roast level, of course. Set this off to the side. There we go. That's coffee one. And then let me also show this to you guys. This is a nice and flat bed. I swirled and tapped. See the fines? This is a very fresh coffee, and it's on the more developed side because it is a sample roast. See all the fines get caught over here, and then we get the flat bed because of the swirl and tap at the end. So that is the first one, and then second one, which we're going to do is now we're going to do the same. Well, the first pour is actually the exact same. But what we're going to do is we're going to then use a Melodrip for the remaining pours. So we're going to get a very different, I would say, presentation of how these dynamics render in the cup. But I'm trying to keep all of the other dosages or pours to be as consistent and similar as possible. So the biggest difference is we're going to see an extension of brew time, of course. When you dump water directly into this, it's generally going to be faster than Melodrip agitation. but they're gonna be stylistically different, and that's the fun thing. So now we're going to do version 2 of this recipe, which is Melodrip agitation. We're gonna direct wet WDT the bed, and I'm gonna let it bloom again at the same time, very long bloom, because there's a little on the fresher side. And then I am going to then do my last 2 pours, but I'm gonna on purpose pour very, very slow. So actually it might help for a coffee like this, which is on the fresher side. So I'm still pouring quite fast at the beginning. Pouring about 60. And I don't really think the pour pattern matters too much at the beginning here if you're agitating. But because I have a UFO, I have to go into the edges there. I push the fines around, stir the bed a little, and then I let this sit. I'm not agitating as aggressively as I was agitating earlier with just the kettle. Because I find when you agitate during this bloom step, you get a lot of really good acidity coming out. Also with this, we can heat up the kettle just slightly more because we're gonna need to run temperature from kettle to Melodrip to bed of coffee. So I find you lose, a few degrees Fahrenheit between just pouring from here to here to here. So, depending on what you're going for, obviously adjust the taste. But man, this coffee smells incredible. Really letting the coffee open up. Now that this kettle is heated a few degrees back up, going to now do the Melodrip agitation. But this time I'm pouring very, very slow. So you can see here, I'm going all the way around. Jiyoon, you should see this. This is very cool.
I'm looking.
You can see I'm agitating the bed of grounds here. I'm pouring actually probably around 2 to 3 mils a second. But I'm agitating, my first pour is to 65. My second pour here is to 145-ish. And my third pour is going to be to 210 because I did the first brew to 210. So we want them to be basically the same ratio. However, because we're agitating the bed of grounds a lot lower, your brew times will actually be a little more extended on something like Melodrip. But now, and by the way, for all these pours, I like to let them kind of, I'm doing the other pour when the bed of grounds is going to, when the water is just escaping there. So there we go.
Is that the last pour?
Yeah, last pour.
Oh.
Can brew more later. But we're very, very close. So 215, or actually we should brew a little less for this because we seem to have lost a ground somewhere there. So this is to 214, 213 area. And our brew times are actually quite similar because UFO and the Sybaris are blazing fast. And let's pour these coffees into these carafes and kind of cool them down. The types of agitation are quite different between these two brews. So hopefully they taste different. So that one is the first one, direct high kettle agitation. And then this here is Melodrip agitation, which is lower agitation. So and they both brewed same everything, or as close as what as possible as what I could do by hand here. I'm only human, and we'll see which one tastes better. Maybe they won't taste better. When the coffees are at this caliber, it's more of like, what is the presentation that you may want? So now we're gonna taste. I did a much longer bloom for these coffees to try to let them open up, but we want to see, is there stylistically a difference? And also this is almost 1:18 ratio. So you can see, for a 1:18 ratio, if I drop this is a lot of money right there. 1:18 ratio, you can see how dark it is, right? Like how extracted this coffee is. Get in here. Cheers. So this is the first recipe. It's now been a little cooled down. So this is high kettle agitation, high wet WDT. And this is a super expressive coffee. So, ooh, wow. So that's like upfront, crisp acidity. So if you guys have brewed my say recipe, this is the style of high agitation that I really like, where it shifts, it kind of compacts a lot of flavors up front, but because this coffee is like super sweet, it is natural, but a lot of those kind of like characteristics get covered up. Oh yeah,
You're on camera.
we're in a we're on a live stream. No, you can be a part of this. You can take
Okay, so this is the first brew. We used this UFO dripper. So 이거 우리가 산 거.
This is a sample roast.
나 9시에 볶은 거야.
So it's very, very fresh. Also, definitely not as light as production roast, but
이건 틀린 거?
다른 거야.
very different presentations of the same coffee. We're getting people who know what they're tasting
Yeah.
on camera.
어떻게 더 맛있지?
But I think we should let these really cool down. It'll open up more. But the first brew, they're just like stylistically very different. The first brew is like high physical agitation of the bed. The second is lower agitation. They're both
Wow.
brewed to the same ratios, but there's a very big dynamic shift. Like the dynamics of acidity for the
Very
first one is very
different.
like, I don't know. You can articulate this a little better than me, probably.
That's so
if you want to
interesting.
explain to
So you
people.
did the same grind. You did the same grind size.
Yeah, same grind size. This is just a pure manipulation of agitation here. And our contact times are around the same.
Wow, it's so different.
Yeah. So how would you describe the differences?
Well,
Or do you have a preference? There are no right and wrongs. Actually, there are. The first one's always the best one. Well, regardless of pour-over recipe, really, this coffee is crazy. Like, holy
wow.
shit, this coffee.
You would almost think that there are two different coffees.
Yeah, but they're different pictures of the same coffee, right? But also, this is a coffee that, when we're talking coffees of this caliber, you can push the coffees in so many different directions. For me, I prefer the first style. I always prefer this higher agitation because I love crispy acidity. And then kind of taking a step back, it's just like, these are coffees that you could stretch them in so many different ways. And the acidity will be presented in slightly different ways. Overall, still really, really, really good. Just depends on what kind of dynamics you're looking for. Let me taste this first one again, and I can give you like a brief thought on this. And then and then you can tell people. Wow, that first one, like mango-y berries. There's like, super fruit forward, but every single fruit note is kind of enveloped in this sweetness, like sugary sweet. The thing that's lingering on my palate here is the acidity. So the way I always like to use my hands here, but it's like, here's the acidity that's up front, and it kind of lingers, and then becomes like a sweet and clean finish. But you can tell this is very high quality coffee and high scoring coffee because of how well things are tied together. Like the acidity is tied so well to the finish and everything there. Whereas the lower agitation recipe here with Melodrip, I would say is sweetness forward. I would say like sweetness and balanced, and then there's kind of those fruit notes underneath. So the extension of acidity is very different between these two cups. I would say that this has really shown that this coffee, to me, like it's a different picture of the coffee. This, to me, is showing the inherent sweetness that's in the coffee. This is showing me the acidity that's in the coffee. Of course, there's still acidity in this cup because of the initial wet WDT, but this to me, I think a lot of people like this style of coffee because it's very balanced. Like this is balanced, it's sweet, there's acidity lingering underneath each sip, whereas this is like acidity forward. So that's like, kind of my way of describing these two. But yeah, that was like mango, strawberry, super fruit, like all those really nice Panama Gesture notes up front. This here is kind of like, and yes, there was like sweetness covering this. This is like the sweetness up front. And it's very clear. Like to me, this is like high clarity. Like I'm getting all the different notes and the extension of the notes, but it's more clinical. Like this is a more clinical brew. This is a more dynamic and interesting brew for me. So that's my opinion. I can ramble on about pour-over recipes all day and dynamics and all of that. But yeah, as you see, she's been trying to taste the differences.
I'm just so happy drinking this coffee.
This is a very good coffee, by the way.
It's like towards the end, my mouth is just like I can't help but smile. Yeah, if I had to come up with like an analog, it's like almost this is like bold and this is italics.
Okay.
Is that relatable at all?
I think so.
This is the first method is punchier. The second method is mellower. They're, like you said, two different presentations of the same coffee, and it's so interesting to taste it side by side.
So that's the fun thing.
Yeah, I think the first method highlights the red fruits more.
Yeah. I actually, in recent times, I used to be a hater of this type of brew method, of this like low agitation, because I was like, low agitation is boring. You're making boring coffee. But when you have expressive coffees like this one, that's really what this is trying to highlight. Like when you're doing this lower agitation stuff, yes, I'm trying to shift up more acidity with how I approach low agitation, but the way I'm doing it is still trying to like say, here is this more clinical presentation of the coffee. And when we're not really imparting so much like crazy agitation and stirring the coffee grounds like we did on the first one, we're really letting the coffee be expressive here. And this coffee is insanely expressive.
So what's so interesting is I always thought of this coffee that we bought as more in the red fruit zone, but the first brew gives me red, the second brew gives me more yellow. So different colors.
Yeah, I totally agree. Now that this is really cooled down, I'm definitely getting more yellow fruit. It's like if I think about this in terms of out of 10 in terms of how loud this is, I think this is maybe like 7 or 8 in terms of how loud it is. This is like a 9. Like it's ever so slightly more punchy, but the linger here, or like the dynamics here is much more, it's a softer presentation, it's more balanced. I think this is a sweeter cup. This is inherently unbalanced. And I think that's what makes it interesting, is because it's unbalanced. But it's still such a great presentation of this coffee because this showcases kind of a different direction of what this coffee tastes like.
And now that it's cooled down, it really gives me like hibiscus, iced hibiscus tea.
Ooh, that sounds really good. I will try some more. Wow. Oh, geez. I mean, the main thing, feel free to try some. Thing that is really interesting with this coffee is the depth. Like the depth and structure and how deep the acidity goes. 2 different pour over recipes. So one is super high agitation, direct kettle, pour everything there, dump a ton of water on it. We're gonna get people in on here. Cameo of the Bean and Bean team.
Of Sal.
High agitation.
So same coffee, same roast, different brewing.
This is a very fresh coffee, so you can taste kind of a little bit of freshness in it, but very expressive. Taste this. And then this is using Melodrip, lower agitation.
Ooh.
So very different kind of expressions of the same coffee. I think the idea with the first recipe is to just boost up acidity and like create a ton of dynamics, like compact everything up to the front. Second recipe is kind of more clinical brew, like let's let the coffee shine, don't really agitate the grounds that much, and let kind of the inherent characteristics of the coffee speak. But really what this is just showing is like this is an incredible coffee, and they're like different presentations of it.
Which do you prefer, the first or the second?
I prefer the second one.
I think the second one is what most people prefer. The first one is like really bold and crispy acidity, and like for a lot of people, scary dynamics. No,
I love it. I love the first.
But it's interesting, right? I actually really like the second one. I think for this coffee, the second one is really, really good. He's gonna roast this coffee, by the way. So he needed to taste the presentation of the coffee, right? And figure out what it tastes like, because Sal's a roaster here, by the way. Just wanted to show off the 2 recipes here with a really interesting coffee. And
This is the coffee that we brewed.
92 Esmeralda, probably gonna be gone by the time this video goes out, or maybe there will be a little bit of it. I would totally do splits of it. This coffee is incredible. But yeah, as you see, maybe people prefer the first recipe because there isn't that much coffee left anymore versus this one. But yeah, those are the recipes. I've done a lot of videos on, or streams on these 2 different types of recipes. Just wanted someone who was, who's much better at tasting to help articulate, the differences. But, when you're using coffees of this caliber, you can get great cups with pretty much any recipes. Just dump water on them. It tastes good. Okay, all right, bye.